how has Auston Matthews learned to actually leverage his emotions? How has he learned to take advantage of the different feelings that he has as a player and become a better player? You see, a lot of elite athletes, a lot of great players, they have learned to actually channel their emotions in big games instead of avoiding them. And I want to teach you how to do that. But first, to get a real hold of how emotions can help you with your hockey development, what I first want to talk about is asking you kind of two core questions here. So the first question I want to ask is, number one, are you satisfied with what you are doing with your hockey training and preparation? Just really ask yourself this for a second. Are you satisfied with what you're doing for your hockey training and your preparation? Take a breath. Think about it. And now I want you to ask one other question. If you keep doing what you're doing with your hockey training and preparation, are you certain that you're going to get to where you want to go? Or at least, are you certain that you're doing everything you can to where you want to get to where you want to go? Now, as you asked yourself those questions, what I want you to notice is that there was an uneasy feeling inside of you. And if you don't feel it right now, just take another breath and just notice it as you ask yourself, am I doing everything I can? You see, now you're probably starting to feel it. And as you feel these emotions, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what is it? Why do I have this uneasy feeling? You see, that uneasy feeling is your subconscious mind trying to communicate with you. It's trying to tell you something. It's trying to say something is off, something is not right. And the question for you is, okay, what is it? Why do I not feel that way? Well, here's the thing. Your subconscious mind knows that your actions, so your actions, are not in alignment with what you say you want. So you say you want to be a great player. If you're listening to this, odds are you do. But yet, for some reason, you're not doing the things you know you need to do. Now, notice how you're able to really figure that out. You're able to kind of think your way through it by actually looking at your emotions. That's the first thing you want to consider, is that regardless of what you think, on a deeper level, there are going to be other things that you are actually feeling that are rooted to deeper subconscious thoughts and things that you are aware of on a deeper level. Now, I know this sounds a little kind of like spiritual, a little weird, but again, that you know that there's something off right now. You're probably pretty clear on that. And if you are really truly doing everything you can to get better, then there's no reason for you to even listen to this podcast. You can just skip away from this. But if okay, I know I could be doing more, understand that I always had that same feeling. Like, I used to always show up to the rink and I would be like super nervous. I would be like kind of anxious, but I used to think that that was just the way things had to be. Like, I figured that it was just like an expected part of being a hockey player and an athlete to just be nervous, to just show up and be like, probably would be nice if this was just a practice and I didn't have to go into this game. And the thing is because I had very like deep-seated feelings and also like deep-seated thought patterns that I wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't good enough to actually get what I wanted. And the thing is that it's probably true that I wasn't doing everything I could. I was working hard, and I'm sure you are too, but there was a ton of things missing, and if I had have actually understood what those were, it would have made a huge, huge difference for me. So you see, there's three core things that you want to consider, and this is in terms of why you have that uneasy feeling. Number one, and this is what I had, and I had all three of these, is I did not believe I could achieve my dreams on a deep subconscious level. On a subconscious level, I had doubts that I could get to where I wanted to go. The second one is I did not know what I didn't know. I didn't realize I was missing a whole bunch of stuff with my training. And then number three, I assumed that I did know what I needed to know. I assumed that I had it all in my head through a bunch of YouTube research and through going to some power skating and some skills coaches. I just assumed that I had it figured out, and then anything that was missing was going to just naturally kind of come my way. Now, here is where I got really pissed off. I got really frustrated about this, because when I was starting to kind of reflect, when I was kind of going into like junior, starting to go into college, I started to realize that I was not actually doing everything I could. I realized that I was saying a lot of things, especially when I started like sharing like socially online and started saying like, I'm going to make the NHL, I'm going to go D1, I'm going to do all these things. And then looking back and asking myself, okay, like what was off? Like why did I have that nervousness even though I was saying I believe that I can do it? Well, it's because I knew that I wasn't actually doing everything I could. So I was kind of dealing with, it was the second one, is that like I didn't really know that I was missing things, but I had number one, like I had the belief. And so I kind of really ended up having fully number three, which is I just assumed that I had it all figured out. And it's such a pointless way to look at it. So I just want you to realize that it's not going to help you if you hold on to those three things. And so this is where you should leverage your emotions for the first core tool that I want you to have here is when you feel that frustration. So when you're honest with yourself about something and you feel that frustration of, I know that I am not where I want to be, I know something is off, this is the best possible place to start. Like this is the best possible place to say, okay, look, like I know I'm not doing what I can, so let's figure this out. It's not too late to actually make this decision, and it should like get on your nerves that, man, like I know I have more inside of me. And see, this is what great players do. They say, I have more. They have a higher standard. They have higher beliefs. They know that they have more potential than anyone else even realizes. They know they have more potential than they even realize. And this is something that Auston Matthews was a master at. So let's start bringing Matthews into this. So a prime example of this is that when Matthews was 17, so I think this was actually in 2017, actually no, might have been a little bit before that. Whatever, somewhere in that range. But regardless, he was about 17, he was going into his NHL year, and he went and said, I want to work on my shot. He was always constantly working with skills coaches to get better. And he started working with Daryl Belfry, who I believe is like the top end like skills development coach probably ever in hockey. And he said, like, look, I want to transform my shot. Like that was the big thing that either he said or at least that they determined together. So really what they did is they worked together, and he like basically recreated his release. And now it's pretty fair to say he probably has the best release in the world. And, you know, Bedard probably is going to get up there, and there's some other like elite shooters, but it's just wild because like he's a top guy. He wasn't accepting it. Like he let that kind of frustration of knowing there's more to say, okay, like I got this. And he wasn't allowing himself to get comfortable with where he was. And I think what happens is a lot of players get too comfortable with where they are. We get kind of convinced like this is the way things need to be. We get convinced that like, okay, all right, like this is going to be fine. This is going to be fine, the direction I'm on. But the thing is that you must learn to expect to transform. You must learn to expect to succeed. And then do every single thing you can to get there. See, that's the difference is I kind of went the route of like expecting everything to come to me if I just started speaking it into existence. Because I got really into like the Conor McGregor like manifest type mentality that if you're just confident and you walk with your chest out, that everything will just kind of come into place. But the thing is, that's not actually what happens. The thing is that you just have to have true belief to start. And that's a challenge for a lot of players. A lot of players don't even have that belief. But you see with Matthews, he had the belief. So then when that frustration comes in, it can be channeled and directed into something and say, I want to fix this. I know that my shot is good, but it's not the best, and I want to make it the best, and I will not accept anything less than that. So that's the key for you, is like not saying, well, you know, I want to get a bit better. It's saying, no, I will not accept anything less than being the best I can possibly be. So you can really steal that from him. Now, in talking more about emotions, the thing I want you to realize is that we can't escape from emotions. There's always going to be things that like trigger an emotion. Somebody says a certain thing, something happens around us. There's going to be things that cause us to have an emotion just kind of like rise up, basically. And you see, instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to suppress it, which is what most people try to do, they try to say like, oh, it's not here, just pretend I'm not frustrated, pretend I'm not sad. And what happens when you're trying to go somewhere, you're trying to succeed in a sport, is that when you suppress that emotion, you don't use it for anything. Instead, you just kind of have it there, and it turns into anxiety, and then you get kind of paralyzed, you don't work as hard as you could, and you get stuck not really doing your best. So instead of pushing it down and avoiding it, and instead of saying like any emotion like, oh, it's not here, pull it up and say, okay, cool, I'm gonna use this for something because I might as well, or else it's just kind of like wasted energy. Now, if you want to learn how to actually like rewire your emotions on a subconscious level and go really deep with this, we're not going to cover that in this article, but if you want to look at the Next Level Accelerator program, that's what we do in the main program in there. So that's something you can learn. Now, that's the thing though, is that you want to really realize, look, like if you have something and you don't know how to completely transform it, so you don't know how to fully rewire the emotion, then the best next step is to say, okay, well, let's learn how to use it. And that's what basically they say in entrepreneurship is basically like, it's the first rule is use what you've got. So if you got something, use it. And if you have frustration, use it. If you're sad, use it. If you're anxious, use it. Instead of trying to avoid it, hold away, like push it away, and then it's just going to come back in those big moments when you really need to have confidence. In those big final OT minutes where you get on the ice and you have to really push yourself to that final moment to come together and use all your skills. And then in that moment, you're not ready. In that moment, you haven't dealt with the emotions, you haven't used them for anything, and now it eats you alive. It's the worst possible time to have it. So, you see, emotions are like fuel. And you want to think of them, for example, like rocket fuel, right? Because when you say just general fuel, like gasoline or whatever, it produces some power. But when you think of something like rocket fuel, it has such massive potential. But the danger is that it can be great because it can give you this massive boost, like it gives like a rocket ship to be able to like explode off the ground because it creates so much force. That's kind of what anger can do. But then you can have the other side of the coin, which is that it can cause the rocket to like disintegrate or blow up, which has happened a million times, well, not a million, but a lot of times with all these tests for different rockets. You see with like Teslas, if you follow anything kind of in the like SpaceX and what they're doing, you'll see like they blow up all the time. Now, the reason I'm saying this analogy is because like when you have anger inside of you or frustration, these like more aggressive emotions, they can be very, very like negative. They can be very, very dangerous, but they can also be amazing. Now, the thing with Auston Matthews is that he seems to either not have as many strong like emotions like anger, or what he does is he kind of suppresses them and keeps himself cool and calm and collected. But that's not really that helpful when you get into moments where other people are using their emotions. And if you think about like a high-end, like a really important playoff game, when a commentator or people talk about playing with emotion, this is what they really mean, is that they're able to turn up the intensity. They're able to play with more aggression and more compete and push themselves harder. And when people say compete, it's just like putting more energy. It's putting everything you have and doing every little bit you can to win. And a lot of people just don't do that. And that's what I kind of feel like with Matthews, is that I feel like he's trying to play to expectation. I think he's trying to play to what people expect from him. Now, he's a great player, so he's trying to live up to that kind of tone he set, especially after scoring like 4 goals to start his career. But the challenge is that now you're trying to play calm and suppress those emotions, and then you have other guys who are using their emotions and generating all this excitement and energy and passion in these big games. Now, it sounds kind of like corny to say this stuff, but you have to think about how it actually applies to getting better as a player. Matthews has so much talent, but you see it when he doesn't really bring it out. And then when you do see him bring it out, which if you go to the blog and you look at watching the clip of Matthews actually go through against Tampa in that game. I think it was game 6 when they beat them out. And you could see there was just this intensity. You could see that there was this, like, I'm taking over the game, this assertiveness to himself. And that's the thing, is he doesn't show that all the time, even though he has the physical capacity to do that way more often. And this is where I think he could learn to channel his emotions. Matthews has that rocket fuel in him, but he chooses to kind of let it go and put it away because I think he's afraid that it may lead to him playing like recklessly. And that's what can happen, is if you start to play recklessly, you can take a ton of penalties, you can fight guys and do stupid things, take cause big problems for your team. But then you can have things like, for example, Matthew Tkachuk for Florida this year in 2023. You saw what can happen when you channel your emotions. He was able to really, really make a difference. You could see what he did when he was able to take that like aggression and intensity and just keep channeling it. When they were down in a series, he was able to say, we are taking this back. And he was able to build that storyline for himself and really create that. So that's the thing I think Auston Matthews is missing. I just don't think he's able to do that right now all the time. And when he does, you see it, and you see it come out. So here's the thing. When it comes to emotions, really, emotions are like a beneficial thing for humans. Like they were made for a beneficial purpose. They ultimately are like a warning system. They're evolutionarily adaptive. And this means that they were made, like, as we evolved, they kind of like were a positive evolutionary trait that we had. And if you think about it, it's good to feel fear, to feel nervousness, to feel like anger if you got to fight something. It's good to feel fear if there's like something dangerous, like a bear or a lion or something around you, and you think like, I gotta run, or I gotta fight, or I gotta do something here. Those emotions pull out this insane strength out of you, this ability that otherwise you might not be able to like just pull out of you instantly. And we see this when you look at like an elite powerlifter. Elite powerlifters are able to channel this unbelievable intensity in that moment, right? Because they are pushing, or let's say like benching, or let's say deadlifting is the one I always think of. It's everything they have in their whole body just driving through for a kind of 1 to 2 second like burst of power. And see, that is a way to leverage those emotions. But the thing is that most of us don't understand how to leverage our natural like emotions that do come up. We don't know how to use them like rocket fuel. So here's how you can do it. Here's how you can actually learn to use them like rocket fuel. It's actually not as complicated as you think, and it's actually very powerful when you learn how to leverage it. Like I said with Tkachuk, where it's just this powerful boost. It's this rocket fuel that just drives you to play exactly how you need to play. It drives you to make hits. It drives you to make big plays and drive the net. It has you play fearlessly. And you need that a lot of the time in order to win games. Guys are able to block shots not because they say, oh, yay, I get to block a shot. They say, no, I'm going to do this. I got this. And they're able to bring that kind of fire and intensity, which we'll explain in a second. But see, before we get into how exactly to do it, I want you to realize again, if you let anger cause you to blow up, like in the analogy of the rocket ship, you want to think of what the actual danger is there. Think about how it leads you to getting angry and taking a dumb penalty, how it leads you to yell at your coaches, your teammates, how it leads you to get angry and stop working. And now suddenly something that could have been used for positive, or you could have maybe suppressing would have been a better solution than letting it cause you to make very silly decisions. But then you also have the other side of it, which is like, yeah, it can pull you down. It can make you play worse, and it can lead you to make a ton of silly mistakes. So you have to be very, very careful with this, and the key is to make sure you channel it. So the way to channel it is to think of that anger like a blue hot flame. So Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, they both had basically a guy named Tim Grover was their mental coach and kind of like skills and performance coach. He kind of had this saying in the book, Relentless. He said, this is kind of paraphrasing, but All cleaners have that slow burning blue hot flame of anger. And it works if they can control it and they can maintain it. So the way that I think of it is, it's kind of like if you've ever used like a gas oven, or if you've used a torch before, or you've seen someone using it, how there is this really hot blue flame that comes out. And the thing with this is because it's a condensed, really hot flame. But a lot of people don't realize they have this and don't realize they can learn to control it and condense it and almost hold that intensity in their hand and then direct it where they want. So you almost want to think of it, it's like having like a ball of heat in your hand, and you can say, okay, I got this, and you can think of like someone getting mad and punching somebody or something. But it's a controlled thing, or it can be something that burns out of control, your choice. But here is how to do it. Here's the actual, basically, 9-step process to do this. So the first thing I want you to do is take a breath right now. Just relax. And then I want you to imagine something that made you angry in the past day, month, year, etc. Just pick one. Okay, you got it? Now I want you to feel that emotion in your body. You feel it? Now notice that part of your body that it's in. Notice where the emotion is. Maybe it's like in your chest, in your stomach. Maybe it's like kind of in your throat. Maybe you just feel it like kind of everywhere. But wherever it is, just notice where it is mostly in your body. And now notice how it's like a warm sensation in that area. Now I want you to imagine that sensation like a blue hot flame that's just sitting there, in control, but just burning really, really hot there. Now I want you to breathe deep, and I want you to just feel it for a few seconds or a few minutes here. You can pause the video if you want. So just feel it. Now what I want you to do is realize that you can control this hot flame. You can actually put it into things. So as you breathe, notice how you can actually almost feel like you're condensing it. You feel that like strength increase. It's almost like this ability where you could act. Now what you want to be careful with is you don't let it turn into tension. So if you feel it in that part of the body, you don't want to do this and say, and just like ball it all up inside your body. But what you want to feel, and again, I know this is kind of hippie stuff, but it does work, I promise you. So now just feel it, and now notice how you could use it like a razor sharp attention that you could put into something, your focus. And what you can even do is just imagine, just pick something in the distance and just stare at it. Just one very fine point. And this is something that our bodies have evolved and learned how to do, is we've learned how to concentrate our energy and put it into one very specific point. And what's actually happening, just to give you some background, is it's more or less neuroepinephrine that's releasing. So this is basically like a part of the fight or flight response, and this is what causes our body to have that feeling of anger in order to go into a survival state. So to fight, to fly, like fly away or run away, or do whatever you need to do to survive, right? So now that you have that, you are harnessing that flame, and now you can create what you want out of it. You can use it to focus in games, or before a game, or during, or after, or whatever it is. You can use it to motivate you, so you can get motivated to work harder and start training and start pushing yourself. You can also use it to be aggressive. You can use it to go and make a big hit to fire your team up. You can use it to make a big net drive, hold the puck and play fearlessly. You can use it to go battle out front and screen the goalie. You can use this between shifts. You can use this at so many times, and it can be such a powerful, powerful fuel. Now you're starting to see why this is so valuable. Now, I want to circle back again to some of the warnings, because I want to give you a clear warning of what can go wrong here. So number one, you do not want to let this turn into a raging fire, because with this great power that you now possess, understand that it comes with responsibility. You don't want to use this to be an idiot and go run someone over and make a dirty hit. You don't want to use this and end up taking penalties or treating people poorly. You don't want to use this in negative situations, but use it for good. And do it 2 to 3 minutes before you do something that you need the motivation for. If you don't want to work out, go use it right before and let it drive you. Okay? Now, warning number two, where not to aim your anger. So, like I said, it can be awesome, it can be used for good, but anger can also ruin you. Emotions, strong emotions in general, can really ruin you if you don't use them. So what I want you to be careful with is you don't aim it at your coaches, your teammates, the economy, the enemy, the whatever it is, limited ice time that your coach is giving you. You don't want to aim it at the external. Instead, you want to get angry at the things you can control. Because getting mad at things you can't is just counterproductive. It's like, punching at the air over and over again and thinking that that's going to solve something. It's not going to help you in any way because you're just swinging at nothing. And it's really pointless unless you direct it at something you can control. So direct it at your workouts. Like I said, you're directed at where you are in your career. Direct it at the things you want, not the things that you don't want. Because if you put more attention on the things you don't want, all you're doing is just wasting your energy. So don't do that. So here is the best place to direct your anger. Again, take it and direct it at where you are and at you. Now, this is not me saying you should be mad at yourself, and say, oh, I'm wrong, and get sad and get depressed because you're blaming yourself. Instead, say, no, I don't accept this for myself. So in terms of if you're in we can take this to a macro or a micro. So a big situation in terms of, I don't agree with where I am in my career, we are not going to accept this as reality. Or in a micro in terms of, it's like a shift, and a guy is going to try to make a big hit on you as you drive the net, and you lean in and hit them with everything you have back. Why? Because you're not accepting what is. That's what that emotion is it's anger is a lot of ways, in these strong emotions are saying I don't want things to be the way they are. So use it. Don't waste it. Don't let these things prevent you from maximizing your ability. Instead, have that emotion be something that pushes you to be better. Don't hate yourself. Don't let yourself get down and depressed. Instead, you want to say, what happens is you say, am I really going to keep being this way? Am I really going to let myself be controlled by external circumstances? Am I going to let lack of money or opportunity or skill be the reason I never reach my potential? Is the fear of failing really going to be preventing me from going all in? Is failure really going to stop you? Instead, you want to tell yourself, I am going to change. I'm going to act regardless of the circumstance. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to be fearless and go after what I want unapologetically. I am going to do it. That's where the I am affirmations or power statements come in. So now, I want you to take this aggression, this anger that you have right now that you're holding on to, and again, there's a conversation to have about actually dealing with it in a different way, in the sense of rewiring it to create the positive emotion you want. But instead, I want you to actually say, well, in certain cases, not accepting the current reality, saying, I'm not going to accept where I am, it can actually be helpful to say, this is not okay. And to have that frustration with yourself, because if you start feeling good about saying, oh, this is fine, I'm happy with where I am, you're accepting the reality. If you're on the fourth line, you don't want to say, oh, this is great. You want to say, no, I'm going to change. I'm going to get back. I'm going to figure it out. And it's not that you can't be happy there, but it's that you don't want to just accept it. Auston Matthews didn't want to just accept being the number one pick. He wanted to be the best, and even better than the number one pick. He wanted to be the best ever. And then if he gets there, or if a player gets there, then it's, what more can I do? McDavid was dominating the league and then went and scored 70 goals, right? It's that big of a difference when you start to say, I'm not going to let myself stay where I am. So here's how you get yourself back into alignment. Here's how you make this shift. You ask yourself, what is out of alignment? Number 2, you ask yourself, what am I going to do to get back into alignment? And when I say alignment, I mean, you say you want to get to the NHL. What are you not doing? So number 1, again, what's out of alignment with what I'm saying? How are my actions out of alignment? Number 2, what am I going to do to get back into alignment? Write a list, bullet down every single thing. And number 3, What help do you need to create that roadmap? What do you need information-wise to get you to where you want to go, to be confident in where you're headed? Is it mental training? Is it skills training? Is it physical training? What is it? Write it all down and then go figure out how you're going to get that help. This is where it's going to make a difference for you. So use the anger, harness it using that technique I said. Do it for 2 to 3 minutes whenever you need to really pull that rocket fuel out of you. You can use it in games, you can use it before shifts, you can use it in those big moments. Do not let it turn into sadness. Do not let it turn into, oh, I feel sorry for myself. Don't spiral down into that depressive state. I've been there. It's not where you want to be. Trust me, it's not where you want to be. Enough of trying to do that. Enough of letting these emotions use you. Instead, start using them. Let's get back to work. Let's get back to work right now. You can do this. You can make a shift. I know I'm being an emotional speaker right now, but I want to speak to my younger self here. And if that's you, if this stuff connects to you, I just want you to realize that this is something that can be fun, but you got to do the work to get to where you want to go. Because when you're in control, when you're in these big moments, and you know the feeling, when you're in a situation where your skills are at or like above the level and you're just dominating and in control, that's when things are fun. That's when things are the way you want them to be. So don't accept anything less than that. And how you make sure that you change that is you shift who you are as a person right now. You no longer accept it. You start putting in the consistent effort and you learn the information that you need to learn in order to get better, whether again, that's mental, skills, or physical training. So I really, truly hope this helps. And I'll see you guys in the next video. If you are a serious hockey player who's looking to level up your game and who knows that what you're doing is not where it needs to be, and you want a full, well thought out system, like 8-10 years of work, all put in to a condensed step-by-step system to help you get from minor to junior hockey, junior to college hockey, and then college into pro. The system applies to everybody the same because we help you build a custom one-on-one plan to get you to where you want to go. Make sure your confidence, your focus, your mindset, your IQ, your physical training, your skills training is all in alignment with your unique identity. We help you build your skill stack, put it all together in a unique, actual presentable product to the next level, and then help you keep improving and leveling up over time. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, go check out the Next Level Accelerator program. It's an 8-week program with a long back-end opportunity to keep learning after that. So go check that out if that's for you. If not, I will see you guys probably in the next video or podcast or wherever you're watching or listening to this. And I hope this made a huge difference for you. So I'll talk to you guys soon.